you're listening.
I just don't care.
No one is ever kidding Michael Cole.
Of course he can roll a grudge forever. This is wrestling.
Welcome back to This Is a Work. My name is David Hensley. I'm the owner and creative director of Long Walk Productions, and I am here tonight to introduce your host, Robert, the distinguished gentleman Brafford.
Thank you very much, David. Good to be back here in the Outpost. Hope everybody listening had a wonderful Independence Day weekend. I don't think I teased this episode last time because I wasn't actually planning to do this episode because I was out on vacation out of pretty much all internet and wireless and all other service contact.
Oh, all right. You hear that, Dave? We're good to go. Good night.
But ended up just working out this way, and I'm really glad because rewatching this one, there's a lot to dig into and a lot to talk about. So you just heard him. With me as always, my tag team partner and co-host, Chris, the Fashion Plate Barnes.
Present.
Oh, man. So I will say, like all AEW shows, big card. I think there were 4 pre-show matches on this one. Watched them live, did not rewatch them ahead of this. They're all fun, but also just in the nature of pre-show, they could have been on Dynamite or Collision. So I'm going to kind of skim past that, Chris, if it's cool with you, and just kind of, shall we get into the main card?
Sure, because that's all I watched.
All right, so this is AEW Forbidden Door, coming from the UBS Arena in Elmont, New York. I don't know much about Elmont. I just know that was a bad crowd. Like, I just got to get that out of the way first.
They were. Are they technically Long Island? Is that why?
Yeah, because they popped hard for MJF.
They're technically dead, too.
They anti-popped for Mercedes because they were definitely chanting hard against Boston stuff when her match was on.
Right.
But, yeah, like, we can get into it more as we go through, but I don't notice it so much most of the time when I'm watching this because there'll be like 6 or 7 people in the room.
There's a level of, I mean, here's the thing, at least with American crowds, because like I know it's different in other countries, especially Japan.
Yeah.
There's a respectful silence in Japan. Here in America, there's usually kind of like, unless a crowd is hot, there is a level, like a small hum of just like people are kind of waiting for things to ramp up and get there. But this was not just like, okay, it's building. They were just like not there.
Yeah, it's like the bass line. It usually like it accompanies the sounds in the ring. Like somebody hits the mat and there's just sort of a noise. Like,
yeah.
And you just didn't have that follow up except for a couple of matches and a couple of moments.
Right.
Which, especially coming off of the last couple of WWE shows they did at like Clash at the Castle and I forget where in France they did. Was that Fastlane?
It was Fastlane.
Yeah. Like where they had these insane European crowds, and I'm sure Wembley. We're going to get right back into that energy, but
oh yeah, because they don't get a lot of major promotion events. So now that they're traveling more internationally, the crowds are going to be fire.
Yeah, David, I know we've got a handful of international listeners, but to all of our Americans out there, I'm just going to say, guys, if we don't start appreciating wrestling, it's going to be taken away from us until we learn how to do it right.
Honestly, good.
All right, so let's see. Going into this, this is their annual co-production. It's the 3rd Forbidden Door pay-per-view, co-produced with New Japan Pro Wrestling, also featuring a lot of talent from CMLL, which, that actually is one thing I wanted to mention from the pre-show. Tony Khan got it arranged, so you have it was a trios match between, I think, La Facción Ingobernable out of Japan, and the Lucha Brothers with Drilisko? Oh, crap, I'm blanking on his name. I think former Sin Cara. You know what I'm talking about?
I want to say yes, but I only know one of the former Sin Caras.
Yeah, I think Drilisko. But, all that to say, he's a CMLL guy. So Tony not only got AAA and CMLL guys on the same card, he got them in the same match, which, as far as I'm concerned, State Department needs to call Tony Khan up and like connect him with Israel and Palestine. Because if you can make that work, just saying, that's about as big a peacekeeping thing as I've seen in pro wrestling in the last couple of years. Let's see. Yeah, you looking up the name?
Yeah, you can go ahead.
Yeah, so I just want to mention that from the pre-show because that was fun. Most of the pre-show matches were just sort of, let's get Willow on the card, let's get Kyle O'Reilly and the House of Black. Just get a lot of the talent. Mystico. Yeah. Apologies to all Lucha fans. Yeah, and it was a fun match, but we start off the show with MJF versus Hechicero out of CMLL.
Also, I should point out there were 5 matches on the pre-show.
Oh, geez. Well, oh, yeah. Because Kyle Fletcher had that 3-minute one with Serpentico. I forgot about that. Oh, man. But, yeah, so MJF versus Hechicero. And, see, again, MJF gets a great pop. Like, the crowd goes nuts for him.
He's the hometown boy got to open the show.
Which, it's interesting to see people talk about this one because the word on social media was that MJF seemed kind of checked out of this match, which I guess I think of normally in sort of a no-selling, non-engaged. And I don't think MJF has ever really looked like that, apart from that one time at Double or Nothing with Wardlow, where the joke was that they'd barely even gotten him to the arena at all, and I don't know how much of a joke it was. But I will say on rewatch, I did kind of see the sort of through the motions element. Like, he executes well because he's MJF and he's really good at this, but Hechicero is such a talented technical guy. I looked and I was like, it's only a 9-minute match. Like, they really could have gone a lot further.
They didn't click together as well as they could have, and I don't think it's a thing you can blame on either man. It just didn't seem like they mixed well together for whatever reason. And again, the weirdness about the crowd, you were right. I mean, they got up and it feels like the whole point of MJF opening the show to get the win, to get the crowd up and pumped to carry through the rest of the show. But that crowd just basically went, well, saw what I came to see. I can just either mentally check out or just physically check out.
It does feel like some people took a popcorn match from then till the main event.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, man. Fine match. Like, Hechicero, he's got that combination of I'm going to say big by Lucha standards, meaning mostly broadness. Like, he's, a guy over 6'2" in Lucha is enormous.
He's a burly guy, and it's like, you're right. I mean, there's something about him. That was actually the first time I've seen him have a match, and what was great about it is I was just sitting there being just always impressed. I was impressed. It was impressed upon me by watching this. It's like, no matter your body size, in the world of lucha libre, you are trained to move like everyone is trained to move like that. He does stuff that is just physically spectacular.
Yeah, and honestly, really technical for a lucha guy with that build.
Well, I think that's part of his gimmick because I saw a shirt, one of his shirts, and he's like, I think one of the things that's part of his gimmick is he's a rudo, but he is very technically minded. Yeah,
that he's kind of like a rudo in the, I guess, like Zack Sabre mold, as opposed to just more of the hard-hitting, cheap fighting kind of way. But yeah, so good match for what it was, but it did just sort of feel like it could be Dynamite or Collision. Also weird because it doesn't really plug into MJF's ongoing story, which is kind of his... at the time this aired, he was sort of having a respectful build to a match with Daniel Garcia and also simmering hostility with Will Ospreay. And all that kind of boiled over on the following Dynamite, but not so much on this card.
Well, I think they were just kind of putting a short pause on that because it's not the particular type of pay-per-view to push AEW specific storylines.
Yeah. So very much just like here's two of our guys showing off, give the crowd something to enjoy with. I gave it 2 3/4, and I'm going to say some of my ratings are going to seem a little bit lower. I've actually tried to revise that a little bit because I feel like so much of my stuff was going 3 and above that it was starting to lose meaning. So, 2 3/4, perfectly fine match, just not much to write home about. Both guys did well. MJF goes over with actually, I didn't note this. On the go home, he hits him with a Panama Sunrise. So he's taken that from Adam Cole.
Yeah.
And also used that kind of hanging brain buster that he did on his return. So that might be a new finisher we're looking at. But yeah, he wins and he wins clean. No diamond ring, nothing else. So he was still in that kind of vaguely face mode that he then imploded on Dynamite.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so next up, Next up, we have the Elite and Kazuchika Okada.
One of the most compact Young Bucks matches I've seen.
I was like 13 minutes. I was like, was there a lengthy pre-fight? No, the bell rang when they all got in the ring. Yeah, that was. Yeah, honestly, all like kayfabe EVP stuff aside, they were setting an example for keeping up the pacing on this card, which for the most part everybody really kept to.
Yep. Sorry, I interrupted you when you were saying it, but it was the Elite and Okada. So he is the Elite. I'm sorry, he is part of the Elite.
Yeah, I said the Young Bucks and Okada versus the Acclaimed and Hiroshi Tanahashi, the ace of New Japan. Max Caster gets to do one of his raps. I feel like he kind of delayed writing it because the last 5 verses, the rhyme is just the word bitch over and over again.
Yeah.
It's not even like, the set of like hair bitch, share bitch, like where he's making it part. It's just that's it. That's how he's tying it all together.
It lacked the feeling of going in for a kill like a lot of rap does when it does that kind of moment. Usually that's done at a faster, harder pace.
Yeah.
But with the more lax tone of their entrance theme, he was just kind of sing-songing with it. It was weird.
Yeah, and I think you mentioned it while we were watching, but you look into the ring, I think it was Okada and one of the Bucks were just kind of like grooving along, and you got Tanahashi doing his air guitar to it. So
the theme is good. It's like the camera caught like some of the Elite just kind of like yep,
Oh yeah, tally the fines in our head. Yeah, so. Yeah, like I said, 13 minutes, fun match. Really did not get to that level of like crazy, combo finisher to kick out to combo finisher.
They saved that for the tag title matches, I guess, because they didn't do the 5 false finishes.
They really didn't, which I was like, oh wow, not even like. Especially in a trios match, you can always have like a third guy coming in to break things up. But
I did enjoy Okada toying with Tanahashi by constantly ducking him, tagging out.
Oh yeah, because he does all the heel stuff. Because it's a long-running New Japan rivalry, so they tag, they face off. Crowd does seem kind of hyped for that, and then Okada immediately tags out and steps to the outside.
Just a nonchalant tag. Nope.
Yeah, they had a bit later on where I think both the Bucks are getting set up for the Scissor Me Timbers spot in the corner.
Yeah.
And Okada moves like he's going to get in, and when he sees Tanahashi, he just turns and steps off the apron. Like, well, I could save my partners, but I still don't want to get close to you. So yeah, fun match. So Tanahashi is, I think, I meant to look up this more. I'm not sure how kayfabe it is, but he's the president of New Japan.
I think that's real.
Okay, yeah, I know he's got like a senior authority position.
Yeah.
And so then they had a fun like.
It was in quotes, but I wasn't.
I think that because the pre-show thing was in like the Young Bucks producing their kind of hit piece on their opponents.
That's right, it was. So I was like, but I think that's real.
Yeah, they described the Acclaimed as the scissoring sociopaths who flaunt standards and practices. But yeah, no, fun. I think the word on Tanahashi is that he is kind of past his prime. It's sort of a recurring thing with this episode. A lot of the big New Japan stars are guys who are north of 40. Yeah, Tanahashi is 48 years old. And that's kind of been the line on New Japan lately, is that a lot of their like young stars are coming over to AEW or WWE.
I will say credit to him. I could tell he looked older, but I would not have pegged him at 48.
Yeah,
I wouldn't have put him at 48.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've both seen wrestlers who, like, by their mid 40s, looked a lot worse than this guy did. We'll see if he's got like the legs to go like Randy Orton levels of agelessness, but he's doing pretty good. Mm-hmm. But
he'll never reach the R-Truth level of agelessness.
Nobody can. He drained that well of life and then moved on. Which, by the way, totally unrelated to AEW, but you saw the announcement about John Cena having his retirement next year.
Yes, his retirement tour,
and
basically.
R-Truth just heartbroken on social media that the guy he's looked up to for his entire career since he was a little kid, the guy who made him want to get into pro wrestling, John Cena, is just not going to be there for him anymore.
Well, I think they need to have a match.
Yeah, that should be his last opponent at WrestleMania.
So he can pass the torch.
Oh man, I know Shelby Death Ray Patterson does not like us talking about that guy on here, but that's
a shame. I love him. I'm going to talk about him.
Yeah. You don't have to send me an angry text for that, Shelby.
Do it. It'll be funny. It would be great if she somehow knew and sent you the text now.
Yeah. If I actually received that right now while we're recording, you would probably just like hear my headset hitting the ground and me running for my life.
a fun match, and the elite
Yes.
the elite take it over the Acclaimed.
Because Okada does finally close with Tanahashi, and after a fair amount of like trios back and forth, he hits him with a Rainmaker for the pin. Fun match. I gave it a 3.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of good little spots, but again, didn't really ramp up. I'm a little curious about what the plan is for the Elite going towards All In, because I get that they're kind of trying to have it be a slow burn. They don't want it to be a storyline that takes over like the entire company, where everybody's Team Elite or Team Tony Khan.
I think they're trying to slow burn it to the point where Kenny Omega can come back.
That seems like it kind of has to happen.
Because they're still pushing that hard to the point where when you were talking about their video package, they blurred out Kenny Omega's face and talked about how they were the people who came up with Forbidden Door.
Would have been honestly hilarious if they kept Cody Rhodes in there but blurred out Kenny. I don't think we caught Cody in there, but yeah. So I know because Hangman is now back. He showed up to compete in the Owen Hart tournament.
Yes.
Yeah. But also emphasized that he's not coming back to the Elite after they suspended him.
He did. Yes. He is a man filled with rage and vengeance.
Vengeful Yeehaw man. Which I don't understand how there are people in wrestling who don't love Hangman, because literally every aspect of his character, face, heel, whatever, he's just the most relatable guy. Like, just
especially because he cut the promo. He also cut that promo and basically laid out how justified he is in how he's acting right now.
It's just the rarest thing that somebody in wrestling remembers what the other guy used to do before a turn. So like, this guy broke into my house,
and y'all started cheering him.
Yeah, so we can get into that a little further down the road, but yeah, I'm really curious to see where they go with Hangman and the Elite. All right, so next up we have Bryan Danielson, the American Dragon, versus Shingo Takagi, the Dragon.
Okay.
And yeah, this is, speaking of, this is another semifinal match in the Owen Hart Cup tournament. By winning this match, you would advance to the finals and face, I think, at the time of Forbidden Door,
that's right. Yeah, never mind.
Yeah, so you had kind of two matches on the other side of the bracket, and it came down to, it's going to be Hangman at this point, but he would face the winner of this match. So, well, not much to this again. Takagi, another guy who's a little older, still like hard hitting.
And I pointed out when we were watching, Takagi and Tanahashi both do that thing of like, I'm not going to make fun of their physiques because they're still doing incredibly well at something that they've excelled in for years. But they're trying to do that thing where they're trying, as I know, it's probably a bit of a crueler thing in terms of how people critique bodies.
Jeez,
probably in Japan.
Can only imagine.
Especially in Japan, because they were doing their best to like push their chests forward and kind of suck in their stomachs a little bit.
Well, it's just the thing that like the male bodies, you get older, unless you do a very, very specific and consistent diet and workout style, your body's going to paunch out a little bit. Like that's just kind of how it goes. And you can still be in terrific shape, but you're not going to look like a six-pack model unless you've really trained for that exactly.
It was just funny, and I don't mean it in a mean way. It was just funny because it resulted in them basically walking around like a old-timey strongman with their chests puffed out and their arms wide.
Like I just imagine like sort of a black and white filter over that, and like the ragtime playing as they're
That's
chasing
just what's the
their
commotion over here, see? Except the Japanese.
Yeah, I am not going to try to do that one. But no, Takagi and Danielson, they work together really well.
They got over the Danielson's neck. Oh, it's giving him trouble.
Yes, they do. Yeah, Danielson, I think he goes for a dive through the ropes. Takagi catches him and does a DDT off the apron, and everybody comes out. Aubrey comes out to check on him.
I swear, and I know I said that to you. There's nothing that man has loved more than coming back from a near permanent neck injury retirement than making people think he has possibly hurt his neck permanently again.
You cared about me, you fools. Yeah, and again, he almost loses by count out. You've got Doc Sampson at ringside, like checking him out, and he barely rolls back in. Yeah, he's he is just living his best life right now by making us think that he's almost lost it.
And he manages to overcome it, and he takes the win from Takagi.
Yes, so I think they have a couple of finishes they trade. Like Takagi he kicks out of the Psycho knee and after like a full yes chant and everything. Which, by the way, some great crowd work where he like played off the yes chant with his middle fingers and everything.
Oh, that's right. Yes, he did.
Yeah, he had the right energy for that. But yeah, so eventually I think, it was a really cool grappling finish where Danielson does the triangle choke and Takagi tries to power him up. And then when he tries to slam him down, Danielson basically just rolls him over into a like an arm lock with Takagi's face down. I actually was not clear if he verbally submitted or if he just passed out because he couldn't tap because of the way his arms were being held.
I think they did the classic. He passed out.
Yeah, like okay, the ref's gonna stop the match now because
they looked down, they checked on him, and they went, "That's it, he's done."
Yeah.
It's like they didn't even try to. Like, his arms were locked, but they didn't try to check anything. That's just like, boom, he's out.
Yeah, so fun match. I give it 3 3/4. Again, nothing against it. Just
It's the classic Danielson wins, but the other guy, he didn't tap.
yeah. And where do you see Danielson going forward? Because in the one of the stipulations for the men's Owen this year and for the women's Owen is that the winner challenges for the respective world title at Wembley.
Oh, Hangman wins.
You think Hangman's going to win?
Oh, yeah. Also, it's important to point out that in the series of matches that Hangman and Danielson have had, they're tied.
Yeah, so they've had one time limit draw.
They've drawn. They've each won one.
Yeah, and I think, let's see, it was because I think Danielson beat him in the Continental Classic, I think.
I think Danielson, yes.
And then Hangman won when he was defending his world title.
I think Danielson would have a physical reaction if he's not able to put Hangman over.
Yeah. See,
that's exactly what that is leading to.
It's tough because I'm thinking in terms of storyline, it makes so much sense to have Hangman come back and to fight his way through a whole bunch of other guys, fight his way through Danielson because
and I think they're going to also have, again, since they're stressing the neck, I think he's going to go too far, quote unquote, and possibly shelve Danielson or in some way or hurt him bad.
Yeah, and because that's what they've been doing since he came back. Like he went after Jeff Jarrett, who had this sentimental thing about his friendship with Owen,
which some people forgot that they were watching wrestling and they were like, well, why would you do that to Jeff and then make him lose? Because it made you feel bad.
You would not have cared if Jeff Jarrett had just lost any other way if you hadn't set this up. But so here's the thing, in storyline, it makes sense. The way they build to Hangman Swerve, the way, as a main event, I see it. The only thing is, I know that this is going to be Bryan Danielson's last year as a full-time competitor. And as with Sting, we saw that even if somebody came in with no intention of ever holding gold, of just wanted to have matches and put younger guys over, they finally talked him into taking the tag titles before he retired.
That's true.
I can see as like a final.
He might get strong-armed into doing it, possibly at least once before he goes. But I don't think it's going to be for this. It's not. This is the proper setup to Hangman coming back at Swerve, who has been noticeably ignoring that situation.
Yeah, and that is the thing. Is I just like the emotion of Swerve versus Hangman at Wembley does trump. Like, it would be awesome to see Danielson in a world title match, and it would be very, very awesome to see him like go into the last run of his career holding up a world title in front of 80,000 people. But yeah, I do admit that with Swerve specifically, it doesn't have the energy that it's going to have with Hangman.
Also, by all accounts, the person most opposed to that scenario you're proposing is Bryan Danielson.
Yeah, no, it would. I mean, we talked about it. It would have to be like a reverse screw job. Like he locks him in the label lock and expects him to roll out, and then he's surprised when the ref calls for the bell, and he's standing there as they raise his hand and he spits on Tony Khan. Yeah, so again, great match. I gave it 3.5. Really excited to see where the Owen goes. I think we're recording this on Monday the 8th. I think the final between Hangman and Danielson is this Wednesday.
It is Wednesday, yeah.
And I'm in a show currently being directed by our producer David Hensley, which has rehearsal that night. So I don't know if I'm just going to like throw my phone out the window so Twitter doesn't spoil that for me, but yeah, that's one I'm looking forward to seeing when I get home.
Also, by the time the audiences hear this, it will be Friday the 12th. So there's that.
Our audience knows something I don't, and there's nothing that makes me crazier than that. All right, so yeah, let's see. Moving on to that one, we have Timeless Toni Storm defending the women's world title against Mina Shirakawa.
The true main event.
Yes, indeed. Accompanied by.
Yeah, I'm looking at the rundown of the card on Wikipedia.
Yeah.
I didn't realize this was only 11 minutes. This was a fantastic. I thought it was way longer in a good way.
Yeah, it really felt like they just told their whole story, and honestly, so much of it is just they structure it around reaction shots of Mariah May, just cutting to her looking and just, she's not wearing a necklace, I don't think, but you can see she's clutching pearls emotionally every time either person takes a hard move. And it's, I was thinking about this. Has there ever been a gimmick change in the history of women's wrestling that has worked as perfectly as the transition into Timeless Toni Storm, especially one that happened fully on TV? Like, there was no point where she went away for 4 months and then comes back and is this now? Like, it's like we saw this.
It would take some research. I'm sure there are other examples, but it would take some research to think about.
I mean, I'm honestly I'm saying women's just because, like, I'm not even sure I'm qualified to make that statement, but most gimmick changes involve, like, you have an injury, you get written off for a while, when you come back, you try something new, and there's almost always a big phase where there's just, an awkwardness, nobody's sure what works and what doesn't. And just the way they built to Toni, the only hitch they ever had was it took a little fine-tuning for her to work her in-ring style into the character, but once she's clicked with that, which I think she did probably around after her match with Deonna Purrazzo, I think since Revolution, it's just been gold. And I'm going to assume that we're in the same place on the likely outcome of the Women's Cup, that we're going to see Mariah May versus Toni Storm at All In.
Well, that's very possible, yeah.
Yeah, because that was one of the other pre-show matches, was Mariah May defeating Saraya to move ahead. And yeah, this whole story, like, you already had enough drama with the young starlet coming up against the old diva who maybe passed her time, despite the fact that they're only 3 years apart in age.
That's Hollywood for you.
Yeah, and Lutha, the jealous butler, in the background. And then you just have the what did you say to describe Shirakawa? Just her goblin energy that she brings. Gremlin energy. There we go. But yeah, just like the chaotic, like, old friend. Yeah, just fun match across the board. Mina and Toni just work really well in the ring together. They just have all these wonderful spots. I like. It's the right mix of, like, they're both taking the match seriously and also finding their goofy spots in, like, the right sequence. So you never lose track of the fact that they can step back into beating the crap out of each other and then do kind of the goofy, like, the dance spot or Toni's, like, starlet preening. Oh, I skipped over the entrance when Toni comes out. She is standing tall as Lady Liberty.
Yeah, this was
the
weird.
torch. Yeah, despite the fact that nobody in the match or at ringside is actually from the United States. Yeah. I checked. Lutha's Canadian.
Yeah, I was about to say, he's Canadian. There's 2 Australians and a Japanese woman.
Yeah.
So yeah, Toni Storm retains, and at the end, Mariah May kind of forces them to have a strained but amicable handshake.
And?
It was okay. We'll get there.
No.
But it was weird. It was like they went into the handshake. Like, if you've ever seen the footage of Macho Man and Hogan shaking hands as they become the Mega Powers, it was weird on that level.
Yeah.
Because they both looked like their bodies were moving, but their faces were like, I don't think I want this to happen. Why is it happening? And then
you could see, like, the pure willpower of Mariah May, like, compelling them both to do this.
Yeah. And then
she leans in for a kiss, and the camera, we get shots of both Toni Storm and Mina Shirakawa, like, their eyes are moving right and left.
They are wide-eyed and terrified, but their heads are going in against their will, apparently.
Just like invisible hands pushing them forward, and they have a three-way kiss. And there is such a long history in women's wrestling of this kind of thing being done in a pretty exploitative manner, and here it is just fun. It is like everybody is in on the joke, and yeah, I have no idea how Mina's going to fit into the story they're building to All In, but it's just a fun time. Let's see, yeah, so I gave that one 4 stars. Just if Toni loses if she loses the title at All In, then this is already a pretty solid lock for the best world title run in the AW women's division. Maybe one of the best title runs in the company's history. Like, she's just been doing such great work.
Oh, yeah.
everybody in the supporting role, Lutha, Mina, Mariah, everybody. And honestly, if they're setting up Mariah to take the title,
there's gonna be shenanigans of some kind in that regard.
Well, she does like the young diva thing so well that...
And she's already got friction between her and Luther.
Yeah. And you forget, like, when she goes in the ring, just how hard she can hit. Like, she's got, like, that Joshi striking thing going on like crazy. All right, so speaking of hard striking, next up we go to Orange Cassidy versus Zack Sabre Jr., just a singles grudge match where Zack Sabre, the technician, just wants to kill the Pockets Man. Something that was interesting to me that I've noticed in both in TV and just in this match particularly, Orange Cassidy just came out of his feud with Trent, like the breakup of the best friends, and in all their actual singles matches they had, Cassidy won. Mm-hmm. But he's not coming out triumphant. It looks like, I mean, not to get like too melodramatic about it, and there's really no such thing as too melodramatic in pro wrestling, but victory is almost like more bitter for him than defeat. That because it's like, they're also.
Well, I mean, because what does winning matter when you don't have any friends to celebrate with?
That Chuck Taylor's retired, Statlander's turned evil, and Trent is now his mortal enemy. So it almost feels like the story in this match is that he's like accepting a challenge from like one of the most painful technical wrestlers because I don't know, maybe he just needs to feel something again.
No, because what does it matter? He doesn't care.
Yeah.
Like honestly, most of the matches, Zack Sabre cajoling him into caring.
Pretty much, like, care or I will pop your sockets out.
I mean, there's not much to say other than this is a frantic match. It's a very fun watch.
Just a reminder that it's like anybody who still does the Cassidy's just a gimmick thing at this point is just deliberately trolling.
I cannot figure out that. Like watching that match, I sat there thinking about people who still call him a worthless comedy wrestler.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, people can be multiple things at once, and I'm watching it right now.
Well, it's also easy. Like, again, Zack Sabre makes it look so good when he's locking in these holds and these transitions that you forget that in wrestling, the other guy really has to be in sync with him. Like, if your arm is not where he needs it to be, if you don't roll the right way, again, he could probably get it there, but it's going to look ugly.
And the exact, and you have to see the end to believe it. The way Zack Sabre twisted Orange Cassidy into a pretzel.
I was trying to look up if there was a name to that move, and it was just like he puts in like a separate lock simultaneously.
I think it's just multiple at once for every limb.
Like he just catches, like he's first got like a double arm lock, and then he catches a foot, and then lets go of one arm to tie up the other foot, and it's just
to the point where there's nothing Orange Cassidy can do but just like submit.
Yeah, oh man, people are talking about Zack Sabre coming over full time. I don't think he needs to do that. It's just as this guy who just shows up and has these kinds of matches, like he's the perfect Forbidden Door wrestler. Because it's honestly one of the moments I was just like, man, I want to follow this guy back to New Japan and see.
Oh yeah,
and see what else he's doing.
And that's the point. And it's like people who would be like, oh yeah, AEW needs to grab these people. It's like you're defeating the point of Forbidden Door.
Yeah. And, well, I'd actually missed this when it was first on. I think I stepped out of the room when they made the announcement, but we saw it on the rewatch. They announced another joint pay-per-view they're going to be doing in January of 2025.
Yeah.
This one in Japan.
Yes.
And it's officially an event with AEW, New Japan,
ROH,
CMLL, and Stardom.
Yes.
So it's like all of the big promotions of
Mexico. It's basically a reciprocation of this event where it's basically they're going to be putting on something like Forbidden Door in Japan in the Tokyo Dome.
Yeah.
Was it Wrestle Kingdom or Wrestle Dynasty?
I think Wrestle Dynasty is what they called it.
Because there's Wrestle Kingdom, which is apparently another show that NJPW does.
Yeah, and AEW just introduced their Dynasty event, so I guess this is sort of their combination.
Yes.
But, yeah. So
January 5th, they're going to be going to Japan for the first time for a show.
And it makes me really happy that that's not like it's great, but in just 5 years, the way the landscape has changed for these kinds of events, that nobody it's cool that it's happening, but nobody is just falling out of their chair in shock about it.
Yeah.
And you've also, if there's a NXT Heatwave episode, I know my wife Gina has a lot going on right now, but NXT is also in the midst of a prolonged crossover with TNA, which is also just, again, not something you would imagine even 2 years ago.
True. It's funny to think this is finally happening because I know around I don't know if it was around the first Forbidden Door or after or what, but Tony Khan was asked about putting on a show in Japan. He's like, I don't know. I don't know if we'll ever really be able to do that. And to see things get strengthened so fast that he's like, hell yeah, let's do it.
And it's also, for all that, people talk about Ospreay and other talent coming over from New Japan, and they're like, oh, all AEW's done is poach the relationship. Clearly, New Japan is pretty happy with how this is working.
Yeah.
Like, they're clearly looking to expand the relationship. Also, side note, I didn't mean to sound dismissive. I really hope that, I look forward to hearing Shelby and Gina talk more about this TNA crossover, because I don't follow NXT enough to be super informed on it, but it seems really neat the way they're doing it, and I look forward to hearing them break that down.
Careful now. You say their name and they'll appear.
Clap, clap. I believe in Joe Hendry.
That's not who I was talking about. But yeah, also at the end of the Sabre Cassidy match, there was a modicum of respect as Sabre had gotten a hold of Cassidy's sunglasses and gave them back to him.
Yeah, and actually just seems to actually want to cheer him up after a little bit.
It was just I mean, he's got that cocky, smug attitude, but it seemed like an actual nice, genuine moment before he left.
And not played as like a significant turn or anything, just a nice little a pet the cat moment.
A modicum of respect.
Yeah. All right, now speaking of the opposite of whatever a modicum of respect is, next up we have Samoa Joe, Hook, and Shibata versus the Learning Tree. So that's Chris Jericho and Big Bill, joined by Jeff Cobb, since Brian Keith is out with an arm injury.
Is he? Well, we couldn't wrestle, that's for sure.
Yeah. Well, honestly, any excuse to get Jeff Cobb in a ring, I'm happy about.
Oh, yeah. No, he was great. And, I pointed out, it's like I like the entire point of this feud is Chris Jericho is pretending to be this big mentor figure for people who are willing to come to him and take his advice.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, after screwing over Hook, Samoa Joe is like, here, I'll actually teach you things.
We're just going to go find people and we're going to hurt them. That's how this learning is going to happen.
Yep.
I think I think it was on the Go Home to Forbidden Door, but Jericho was going through the arena doing his thing, and Joe, Hook, and Shibata were waiting to ambush him in the Zamboni, keeper's office. The one place they knew he'd come. Oh, man. So Jeff Cobb, I mentioned earlier that some of the older New Japan guys Jeff Cobb is 41.
That is how old I am, and I'm a little upset to hear that.
That dude, just a guy that size, and not just that he can do a standing moonsault, but that's a really good standing moonsault. Oh man, every time I want to go back and watch Lucha Underground, because not to make this a tangent on there, but they spend a season and a half building to this monster, this terrible guy who's going to show up, and when he shows up, it's Jeff Cobb in a Jason Voorhees style mask, and the second he's in the ring, he is literally spinning men over his head. He is doing like standing shooting stars.
It's been a thing for years. Like the agile big guy is a terrifying prospect all the way back to, I'm sure before, but Bam Bam Bigelow is like one of the prime examples. It's like he's a big guy. He can move, and he can move that fast and then grab you and hurt you.
Yeah, and I am always happy. We did get the much needed meat chance when Joe and Jeff Cobb both got in the ring and started smacking off each other.
It's like it's going to sound like an unflattering comparison, but I mean, it's like encountering a hippo in the water.
Yeah.
That's where they are their most deadly, and they kill the most people per year in Africa because they are highly territorial, and it's like they move so well in the water as opposed to how they normally move in land. They will just upend your boat and kill you.
Yeah. I just realized I don't think I gave my rating for Cassidy versus Zack Sabre. That one was 3 3/4.
Okay.
This trios match, against my will, the Jericho gimmick is really growing on me.
He's playing into it in all the right ways.
Yeah.
he's doing exactly what you would want to do with a gimmick like that, where he's pretending to be this nice, helpful, generous, smarmy dickhead.
And I'll give him credit. He was positioned in this match as easily the least dangerous of the three guys on his team. That Like, he's the one who actually takes the when he does I think he tries to come out of the corner with a cross body to Shabbat and Hook, and they do a double walk away.
Double walk away. Yeah.
And he's the guy who hits the mat while Joe smiles approvingly.
It should be pointed out, people have noticed, because it's been kind of unsubtle, I think, recently. Jericho is kind of modeling this a little on CM Punk.
There just might be some bad blood there.
Specifically, it was noted, CM Punk did in an interview, he talked about how he was, I forget the context. It was basically oh no, someone did an interview.
Yeah, I think it was Cody, because I remember he said the biggest red flag for me is when somebody says I'm just here to get the younger guys over.
And then in the next AEW event, Jericho's like, I'm just here for the young guys.
Yeah. Oh man. So yeah, overall I ended up liking this one a lot.
People were like, oh, he's talking about CM Punk because that's essentially how he talked about his time in AEW, but it's just like, Cody's a politician, so it's like he was very much like, I'm not saying anyone.
Yeah. Yeah, man. So I get what some people are annoyed about with Hook, which is that he sells with the endurance of a much bigger, much tougher guy. I still don't mind that so much.
That doesn't bother me. He's Taz's son.
Yeah, he's just got that, and it's like that episode of Always Sunny in Philadelphia where they the gang gets involved in underground street fighting.
Yeah.
And they just decide when their plan is to get Charlie so drunk that he can't feel pain, but when he gets too drunk to fight, they put Mac in because, hey, the opponent's a skinny little guy. Mac could take him, and then Mac gets his ass kicked because, the skinny little guys can be
little guy fighters are mean, and they do not fight fair.
They hit the ground like rubber bands. They just come back up.
Oh, yeah.
And the fact that he hits, I think it was Cobb that he hit I think it was the fisherman suplex on, just flipped that guy over him. And Taz openly cheering for his son, which is just heartwarming.
See, here's the thing: if we're gonna have to try and apply logic to this, I'll do it right now. So here's a kid who, hey, he's strong, he's wiry, but he's strong. So in the middle of a match, when everyone's got adrenaline coursing, he's gonna take hits and basically bounce, and bounce back up. He is also Taz's son, raised by Taz, trained by Taz. You don't think he was constantly in the ring with if his dad was training him and giving him pointers, he's telling him what to work on to handle endurance and all that. It's you just put that in your mind, and it's there you go.
Yeah. We were talking about the concept of what's realistic in wrestling, for lack of a better word, which is a very hard thing to define.
It's also a stupid thing to focus on too hard. Yeah.
And it's just what makes sense within the world of this match, and it's just
it's the rule of cool.
Yeah. If you can get there without it breaking the match, without it flying in the face of what these characters and this match has established, then you got it. And I still think Hook gets there. So he actually does, he's the one who gets the pin in this match. He hits Jericho with a Judas effect.
That's right,
pins him. And Jericho called him out on that the following Dynamite. The worst thing you can do in wrestling is steal another wrestler's finisher.
The disrespect.
So I gave that 3.5. That was a fun match.
That would all. I mean, I'm sure there's someone petty enough to do it, but it's just that would just if AEW was on top of things, they would just quote that and they would just clip that and then just do a quick montage of all the times of all the footage he had of him stealing other finishers.
That probably could come up in the next promo at some point. All right, so next up we come to
it's ladder match time.
Six-man ladder match for 6-man ladder match for the AEW TNT Championship, vacated by Adam Copeland after
his femur done gave out on him for some reason. It's a mystery.
It's a sad thing that Edge can't jump off the top of a cage anymore.
The sad thing is he really shouldn't have, but he did anyway.
Yeah. But so you've got Mark Briscoe, Jack Perry, Konosuke Takeshita, Lio Rush, El Phantasmo, and Dante Martin. Interesting thing about this match is there really wasn't. Normally, you have at least one monster in this kind of ladder match.
Yeah, true.
Like a Brian Cage or a Lance Archer or somebody. And Takeshita's probably the biggest guy, but he's a very fast, very athletic dude. Mm-hmm. So you didn't really have.
It was a scramble in all the best ways.
Yeah. But honestly, not as spot heavy as. Okay, I should say all ladder matches are going to be pretty much spot heavy because it involves a lot of careful.
You're going spot to
coordination.
spot, yeah.
but not a lot of not a lot of sequences that had like elaborate setups and, here, let me build these 3 things.
Yeah.
I think the one time they really slowed down to do that was just because it was when Briscoe was setting up the I think he was trying to slam Takeshita off the ladder onto another ladder that he'd wedged between the corner and
Well, he tried, but it was broken, so
Yeah.
he had to lean it.
Yeah, and he eventually got it done. But that, like everything else, it was just like, oh, I guess the tables are set up out there. Or, oh, I guess there was a great bit where all 4 of the 6 guys all go out to the outside, grab a letter at the same time, and I think they try to throw them in simultaneously.
There was a minor, it was this match where there was a minor table spot that went awry. There was someone tried to.
Oh.
I forgot who tried to put who through a table, but they bounced off.
Yeah, history almost repeated itself because you had, I think I wrote this one down. Yeah, so it was. No, it wasn't actually. No, hold on, I lost it. Yeah, no, somebody was on the table outside. No, it was Briscoe. He had a ladder up on the apron.
Yeah.
And he jumped not from the apron to the outside, but actually like over the ring to the far side, where I think it was Takeshita who was on the table.
Oh, that's
and
probably
it was
right.
The same thing as with Copeland, where the table just didn't quite give out, and Briscoe's feet ended up hitting the ground first. Now, apparently he's fine, but it was,
Oh yeah, he did. He finished the match.
Yeah.
He's okay. There wasn't like an obvious. It wasn't immediately obvious. Like I don't think anything broke.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was crazy.
And you've also got Jack Perry just doing the chicken shit heel thing to perfection. With everybody, like heel or face in the match, tries to get on him as soon as the thing starts. He runs out of the ring, gets chased back into the ring, and then Takeshita just like drops him with a forearm. That like nobody likes this guy.
And they cleared him out of the ring, and then it's like okay, and then everyone turned to Takeshita because he was the next biggest threat.
And you even get like just the bits that I love when somebody takes a moment to look around the ladder match and just realize how insane all of this is. I think it was, or maybe I might have been getting the spots mixed up from earlier, but Briscoe does hit it's like a dive through the ropes to Takeshita, who's lying on a table with a ladder on top of him. And Briscoe just hits that whole pile and breaks it, and they just pan up to Jack Perry, who was leaning against the barricade next to it with this wide-eyed, like, oh my gosh.
Oh, good. That wasn't me.
But yeah, so everybody's fun in this. Good to see Leo Rush back in the ring. I know there was some bad blood with him in AEW, but it seems like they've patched that up. El Phantasmo I didn't know super well. I honestly thought he looked like a shorter Logan Paul when he first came out. Which I know he's been wrestling for a while. I think he's pretty experienced in Japan.
Yeah, he was great. He was great to watch.
Yeah.
And as far as I know, he hasn't filmed anything illicit in the Suicide Forest.
Which, yeah, no, I mean, and he's been in Japan a lot longer, so I'm sure he's had plenty of opportunities. What I'm drinking right now, by the way, I didn't give a beverage at the top because what I'm drinking is just water this time. Had a dental procedure today, and that is the one thing I don't treat with whiskey.
Well, not in this century.
All right, so yeah, like all ladder matches, just a lot of fun to watch. Kept the energy up. 16 minutes, so good pace. Eventually ends with Briscoe gets kind of the hope spot where the face is climbing up, and he's almost got it. And then Jack Perry knocks him off the ladder with another ladder, like jabs him in the side with it, lays into him with a chair, and then climbs up to retrieve the belt himself. So after all that, Jack Perry does become your new TNT champion after the Elite tried to just give it to him in the beginning and kicked off this whole kerfuffle. So now every member of the current form of the Elite is holding a title belt.
Yes.
So curious to see how long, if they hold onto that through All In, or if that's something that only lasts for a couple of pay-per-view cycles.
It'll be interesting, yeah.
All right, I gave that 4 1/4. Just
nice.
Fun ladder match, kept up the energy. And just really happy to see Jack Perry sinking into the heel role, like knowing exactly where he needs to be. Because somebody showed a clip, because I think it was a little over like a year and a couple of weeks ago when he had his first, because he turned after Forbidden Door. He turned on Hook after Forbidden Door 2023.
Yep. Yes, he did.
And it was the week after that he came out and did his first promo. And it really, like, you go back and you watch it, it really is just kind of a generic, I don't know you people anything kind of.
Yeah, a lot of times after turns, unless the person is just really on their game. That's kind of what it either when they're turning heel or turning face. The first one is a kind of a generic promo because you got to feel your way through what you're gonna be in that role.
Yeah, and not every wrestler gets quite as forceful of a direction placed on them as Jack Perry did.
Yeah, he he found his groove thanks to a former coworker.
Yeah. I'll always say, like, that was always my thing. I was like, are we ever going to see him in AEW again? Because what do you do with a guy that, like, 10 to 20% of your crowd, 60% if you're in Chicago, is just going to boo no matter what he's doing? And
thankfully, Chicago's gotten over it.
Yeah,
so.
they've kind of taken it in stride. And let's see. So speaking of... No, I almost tried to parry to Chicago, but she's from Boston.
She is. The next match was Mercedes Moné versus Stephanie Vecker for it was the title for title, the AEW TBS Championship versus the NJPW Women's Strong Championship.
And what's kind of funny is that, like you said, they not just title for title, like they described it as winner takes all, but technically Stephanie Vecker is only putting a third of her gold on the table for this one because. In addition to being the New Japan Strong Women's Championship, she's also the Women's World Champion for CMLL and one of the Women's Tag Champions down there. So she still leaves with the same number of belts that Mercedes did after the match.
CMLL has only just begun this partnership. They're not going whole hog like that.
No way. And to be fair, I don't think they I don't think AEW signed Mercedes with the intent of having her run off to defend titles.
No, because they would make her.
Yeah. So. Good match. Stephanie Vecker showed up. Like,
oh yeah,
she was just
great energy from her. Apparently she's Chilean.
Yeah, and like she's again the lucha style. Like it's a little different for the women and men, but it's just that very like athletic, very energetic.
And then there's their ring gear style too, varying interestingly enough. Because Stephanie Vecker, essentially who is the face in the match. I don't know how.
It's a little fuzzy. I think Mercedes is kind of still sort of in a gray territory, but they're sliding her more towards heel, and I think they submitted that.
I mean, by the Dynamite and Collision that week, she was basically slid into heel territory. But it started here definitely because. Stephanie Vecker comes out. She looks like a dark queen, resplendent, I would say.
Like feathers, like very Maleficent style.
Mm-hmm, green and black, a good foreboding combination. Mercedes comes out in her usual like Technicolor, thermal weather map style.
At some point, there was after she took a move, there was like a thick strand of something like green and blue lying on the apron, and I was like, that came off some part of Mercedes. I just don't know where.
Yeah, it's hard to tell. This was a good match. The crowd was terrible again because they woke up, but it was only because Mercedes is from Boston and they wanted to heckle Boston.
Yeah, just chanting about
it was fuck the Red Sox.
Red Sox and Celtics, I think, were the ones.
Yeah, fuck the Celtics was the first one. And it's like that's basically what they really showed up to do for that match.
Again, real shame because both women were doing really well. The AEW has put a lot of chips down on Mercedes. Clearly, they wanted somebody that came in as like a star, and they're building appropriately. And it's on her to deliver now. But and I don't want to give it all to her because again, she had a fantastic opponent in this.
She really did.
Like kept up and just kept the crowd going. But yeah, if she can keep this level up, I think they can get their money's worth there.
100%.
And it ends with Mercedes. I actually looked up because I wasn't sure about this. It is still called the. No, not the bank statement is her crossface.
Yeah, that's what it's still called that. Yeah,
I was.
It still can be because it's even without the connection to a stage name, it still fits the theme. So,
and so she submits her with the bank statement, and after Vecker taps out, Mercedes takes a moment to celebrate, and then we have the music of Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, who's finally back after I think it's been 8 months.
Something like that,
yeah. Comes out, and a lot of the things they're slotting people into going into All In is these rivalries of sort of your day one AEW people versus sort of the new stars showing up. And I think, this is probably the most clear example of that because Britt was literally the first female talent they signed.
Yep.
And Mercedes came in and within, in her first match, she wins the TBS championship. In her third match, she wins the New Japan Strong Women's Championship. Yeah, like you said, they're definitely putting her in the heel place, especially after she interrupted Britt's promo about, nearly having a stroke and the severe medical danger she was in. Man, it's good to see Britt back. Pretty clearly that's their all-out plan, and I don't think they're going to take the belts off Mercedes at this point, but that ought to be that's in front of a nice hot Wembley crowd. That ought to get them there.
Oh yeah, there's going to be shenanigans because Mercedes is already cozying up to the elite.
Yeah,
they're already being friendly with each other, so it's like something's going to happen.
Yeah, they actually had the balloons come out for her celebration in the middle of Britt's promo. Yeah, so I gave that one 3 3/4. Just great match, good energy. Word is that Stephanie Vaquer has been getting a lot of interest from both AEW and WWE.
I saw that statement. I was like, as she should.
Yeah,
absolutely.
All right. So
speaking of great match, good energy.
Yeah, we get to our semi-main event. Jon Moxley defending the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship against Tetsuya Naito. This is one where, the crowd, again, knocked a half a point off it for me because they just could not, it's a slow match. It's methodical.
Yeah.
It's a lot of, strikes. And also, let's note, Mox never bladed.
No.
Kept all the blood in his face for the whole match. But does anybody say thank you?
Excuse me.
But, so I thought this was, I didn't actually note down the time for this. Do you still have that one up?
Yeah, 17:05.
Yeah, 17:05. So longer match, but working a slow pace. And
it's also important to note. It's so weird. What's so weird about this crowd is you've come to the Forbidden Door pay-per-view, the one that's the big crossover.
Right.
But you don't seem to be in line with seeing the NJPW style matches.
Right.
Which they're gonna put on.
Yeah. That you think these the old guard of New Japan is going to show up and just immediately plug into a cruiserweight style,
Absolutely not.
No, you've got your guys like Ospreay, you've got your guys like Sabre, but you've also got guys like Naito and Tanahashi who are just
they've got a distinct storytelling style in ring, and if you're going to be a fan of it, you got to be into it.
Yeah. And it's actually weird we hadn't talked about attire, but you'd mentioned how it's on these crossover shows that you really just appreciate how much flair and personality there is in just the average ring gear of a Japanese wrestler.
That is what I said when we were watching it. Is it was very much I don't know if I think just Japanese aesthetics allow for a much wilder style in that you can go way more all out in terms of no one's ever really going to go, what are you wearing in a derogatory way. It's just you show up with the confidence of this is me and this is what I'm wearing, and it's just it shows and it looks great.
It is funny that you have back over in WWE you have Seth Rollins, whose whole gimmick has just basically become his increasingly insane outfits.
Yeah,
and would not even be in the top 20 most garishly dressed people on a given New Japan show.
I mean they would. It would be mega over in Japan to be for your thing to be I'm just gonna wrestle and also be a fashion icon at the same time.
Yeah. So again, just hard, not a lot to describe in the match. Just the two guys are working each other.
Yeah, it's a hard hitting match.
Yeah.
It's a lot of people are Moxley bleeds in everything, does not bleed in this match you said, and it's still a hard hitting slugfest of a match.
Yeah, each man I think takes the finisher from the other guy and kicks out. You have let's see, make sure I get his name right. Hiroyuki Uno, or Red Shoes, is the referee, come over from New Japan.
Yeah, he's one of the most famous figures in the wrestling world. He's revered as a ref.
Yeah, it's the great moment of standing up for the rules, but also clearly being terrified. At one point,
oh yeah.
Mox after Naito kicks out of Paradigm Shift, he goes out, gets a chair out from the outside, and sets it up clearly to do a Death Rider onto that. But while he's setting it up, Red Shoes picks it up and runs into the corner with it.
First he kicks it.
Yes.
He kicks it out of the way, and when Mox picks it up to use it, he grabs it and, like you said, he leans back into a corner, he's shielding himself with the chair. Because it gets across the fact that it's it's the same thing in American wrestling or wrestling around the world that, the refs are definitely not built like a wrestler most of the time to take hits and bumps, but it's really emphasized. It's like it's interesting the way they do it there versus here. They get across that this man is a very respected official, and then like Mox is playing the ugly American and bullying him,
like literally backing him into a corner after a 2 count at one point. Man, so it does eventually. Let's see. He does try to land the Death Rider. Naito turns it into a crossbody in midair, which looks messy in I think a very effective way. Like
it's like I think I said when we were watching, it's like the instinct would be, oh, that's a botch, but it's not. It's late in the match. They're both tiring out, and he basically it didn't turn into a move, but he turned that into something where he got the advantage of landing on Mox. Yeah. And Mox took the brunt of it.
And so when then he hits his finisher, which is really cool, like flipping over DDT. I looked at it's called the Destino. But yeah, so he pins Moxley after that.
That makes sense because he's part of the Los Ingobernables.
Oh yeah, that's right. Which, by the way, we didn't even mention his outfit specifically, but he comes out with like a 3-piece suit under a sweet red coat.
Oh yeah.
And half of Mox's entrance is just him like carefully like discarding each piece while he gets down to his gear. But
Mox, meanwhile, came out in a very slick NJPW jacket.
Yeah, it looks like almost a jumpsuit,
like a trainer, a trainer tracksuit. But it's like it's not like a windbreaker. It's like a proper tracksuit. Very nice. Yeah. Very flattering.
So that's another one. I gave that one 3 3/4.
Excellent. And Naito seals the victory and wins back the IWGP Championship.
Yep, which Mox last won in Chicago at I think the Windy Riot is what they call it.
Windy City Riot.
Yeah, Windy City Riot. So I'm a little sad to see the Arrow win because apart from 1 week, you had, I think, going back to 2019, at least one member of the Shield was holding a world championship at some point going back to 2019. And after Roman lost, you had a week, and then Mox won the IWGP title the following weekend. But now, nope, they're just going to have to go off and be the bums that they all are. Moxley is just living his best life.
He really is.
I see people who's like, keeps saying like, oh, can you believe he's missing out on this or that in WWE? And I'm like, look,
I don't think he sees it as missing out, and you can always tell the people who are disingenuous about that because they still call him Dean Ambrose.
Yeah, and it's just like, look, this is a guy who could have gotten millions of dollars to stay in WWE if he wanted to do that. And you read his book and he's just like, look, I didn't love wrestling anymore. Like what I was doing there was just like I was ready to just walk away from it all, even if I had no idea what else I could do with myself.
That man would have crawled into the bottle even faster.
Yeah, he hadn't even that wasn't a public thing when that book was released. But yeah, you can only imagine like what a tough spot that would have been. But yeah, just getting to wrestle on multiple continents, getting to wrestle against all these legends of New Japan and doing shows in CMLL,
people are watching him just running around the world, just having the grand old time. Just look at him missing out.
Yeah, and then just interspersed with Instagram footage of him giving his daughter piggyback rides and just being an adorable big
he's missing
Cincinnati
out,
dad.
Man.
Yeah, so all right. Now we come to our main event, the singles match for the AEW World Championship with Swerve Strickland defending against Will Ospreay. Oh man,
just go watch this match.
Really, just go, because again, we've been down on the crowd for most of it. They were up for this one. They were
literally
so
just waiting for this to happen.
Yeah, but if they had to save up all their energy to do this, well, I don't love that, but at least we got the reactions for this, because this was 27 minutes, and
I beg of you, either buy the pay-per-view or I'm not your boss, torrent it if you have to. Watch this match.
Oh man, yeah, it's just, so the thing about it is, a lot of people thought Ospreay Swerve was going to be the main event for All In, because Ospreay put a British guy in challenge for the title. And apparently,
well, guys, you'll still be with the company after this. So.
We'll definitely see that at some point. But so Fightful is now reporting that was not only was that never the plan, that they were lining up different opponents for both of them. Ospreay was actually the one who pushed for this match with Swerve ahead because
he wanted to help legitimize Swerve's reign.
Yeah, that he wanted to get past the idea that Swerve is just like a placeholder champion. And yeah, this is the match to cement that because.
It did.
what I love is you've even got kind of the Don Callis spot interfering, but there is nothing that suggests, Ospreay could have won this except for...
Because that spot does not happen until near the very end of that
Like
match.
when he's at the point of I'm running out of things to try, I'm not sure what I can do. And even when Don Callis comes down and gives him the screwdriver, which... Again, there's no other way to read that except take this and murder that man.
Yeah,
This isn't even like a brass knuckle.
No, it's even funnier because of the tight laws that Britain has on guns and knives.
I hadn't even thought about that.
There was a rash of when people were getting robbed and stuff, they were getting robbed by people who stabbed them with screwdrivers.
Jeez. Oh man, but he's not. He doesn't even take the screwdriver and go after Swerve. He goes after Nana, and that's where he's
Nana tries to get it away from him.
Nana knocks Callis out of the way.
Yeah, and he holds them. He's like, and then until he's like, "What am I doing?
Is this a screwdriver I see before me?"
But it was a very natural way, and not a Roman Reigns monologue kind of way.
Yeah, no, just they let him look at it and clearly come to a decision, and then come back in, and then get his head kicked off by Swerve because doing the right thing is really
decisively.
stupid
They made sure that finish was absolutely. There's no two ways about it. Swerve won this.
Yeah, another thing that people criticize about Ospreay is they say he doesn't sell. Like they say because he wrestles like a guy who is fighting on adrenaline, and then every match you have with this guy, he'll have a moment where you just see his body shut down.
Yeah, he does that. Also, like you said, it's like he fights like a man who is running on top adrenaline and, like Swerve, has amazing reflexes and instincts.
Yeah, but there's just a part of his body knows how to do this move even if his brain is shut down.
Oh, yeah.
He can take a hit, bounce back up, hit his own move, and then both men just collapse into piles.
There's a spot exactly like that where Swerve hits him with a huge move and he falls, but he moves back like he's going to falls into the turnbuckle, bounces back out, and then responds.
Yeah, which is great because he's starting to tip back over from the hit, but he hits the turnbuckle and bounces out from there. That's the only thing that keeps him on his feet long enough to do it. And
what are you mad about? You got the best action movie you'll see all week.
And they're trading spin kicks and dodging because these guys go back a long time. There are clips from them both on the indies, and they've got that perfectly in tune energy for all of these spots. Oh man, and the go home on this is so great because you've got Ospreay clearly out of gas. He's taken too many. He kicks out of multiple Swerve stomps. But that's all he can do. He can kick out, but he can barely make it back to his feet.
Avoid it. Yeah.
And so he goes at Ospreay with a hidden blade, which that's how he beat Danielson. He got that hidden blade in the car crash spot.
Yep.
But he just doesn't have the energy and. Swerve doesn't even block it, really. He just lets it hit because it's almost nothing and just catches him.
He catches him, and there's a very sweet moment where he's like, "I can tell you're done. I'll finish this."
Yeah,
one.
just pats him, sets him down, and
then
does
You did great. Now let's finish up.
Yeah, and Swerve does pin him and retain, and Swerve is going into All In as the defending AEW champion.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be honest, a week ago I would have thought him versus Danielson was it, but talking about it here especially, I think we're going to see Swerve Hangman 3 at Wembley, and
I think that's what it needs to be. And I don't think that's going to be the blow off to their feud. That's just how it picks up.
And that's just the kind of energy these two guys have. There will never be a resolution to this. There will never be a point where they can't just come out and be like, let's have another match where we kill each other.
Right.
Yeah, so I gave that main event 4.5. Just excellent across the board. Cements Swerve is the kind of champion he's going to be. Ospreay puts him over while still looking fantastic himself.
Yeah.
Just man, this was a good card. I'm glad I got to rewatch this one before doing this. Man. So you got anybody you want to single out as sort of an MVP of the evening?
No, I think no. I don't mean that as in there was no one person who was above everyone else. I think everyone brought it.
Yeah, just everybody, and it's what you want this card to be. Is if you were a New Japan guy, just following Naito or Tanahashi over and just watching this, I gotta imagine this would make you want to see more of what AEW is about. I don't think you have a lot of first time viewers, but it just seems like this is the kind of thing these are supposed to do. Build the industry, get eyeballs on all the product, not just the one.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So,
did you have anyone in particular that you liked?
I'm just I love Samoa Joe. I just
He's so good.
It's not even like he was fine in the trios match, but I mean, coming off of his, off of his title run, it's a little bit more of a cool down state. But just another guy who just left WWE, and in his case was let go by WWE, and just settled into this like happy return to the career that we all probably thought was over.
It's not 100% the same, but it's almost like Macho Man leaving WWF, because it was like they were like, okay, we're gonna have you. We don't see you in the ring anymore. We're gonna have you on commentary. And Joe was going with that for a bit, and then they were like, oh well, maybe we'll do something. You're gone. And he was like, all right, to AEW I go.
Well, I think the craziest thing was having him show up on NXT, win the NXT title, be the first guy to pin Karrion Kross on NXT, and then just to announce, for medical reasons, he's vacating the title. We're having a tournament now. Just like not even have him lose it on television. Yeah, so glad he...
That would have meant having to pay him for a last appearance.
Yeah, for all that, I think WWE has picked up its game a lot. The way they're doing releases still just sounds like a nightmare. Like Dijakovic just was talking about how most guys are finding out they've been released from Fightful. They're not like,
That was a very common thing, unfortunately, for them.
All right, well, so
not to mention the horrible story about how Cameron Grimes was assured up and down, left and right, you are solid, you are here, and then he got a phone call saying goodbye.
Yeah.
It's just like, and he's just like, how do you do that to someone? How do you do that? How do you like have people up in corporate are being like, you are doing so good.
Yeah.
We are proud of you.
And it's hard across the board, because AEW did a couple of months back have their first round of actual like mid-contract releases, because previously there'd been a couple of releases for behavior, for cause, but otherwise it had pretty much just been, if your contract's not renewed, all right, we'll shake hands and good luck to you,
basically.
And it wasn't until I think it was February that they announced it. So again, it is the nature of the business to an extent, but man, you don't have to be that way about it.
It doesn't feel like AEW leaves anybody in the dark. It's like if they're not getting picked up, or if they can't come to terms, it's like, well, okay, then I guess we'll just, we'll have you until then, and then, you're free to take your bookings. Best of luck.
Yeah.
They don't pretend like you have got a job here for, as long as we can have you, and then they just call them later and be like, yeah, you know what, you're out.
Yeah. All right, so I think that's going to about do us for this one.
I think so.
Overall, I gave this, again, I got to knock this overall show down a little because the crowd was just not there. And that's not the fault of the wrestlers, not the fault of the company, but so much of wrestling is that crowd energy. And when it's not there, it does take the experience down a little bit. So I give that one 3.5 out of 5 seizure spots.
I feel like it. I feel like it'll be a little bit before they come back there.
Yeah.
Or at least host an event there.
Well, nothing like going a show in Europe is just sort of the cure for what ails you when it comes to crowds. So, oh man. All right. So, the only thing I was curious about, it seems like they're setting up Ospreay versus MJF for Wembley, but there are also rumors that Ricochet, speaking of people leaving WWE, is finalizing a deal with AEW, and I've got to imagine they're going to get that guy on TV as soon as possible. So I'm looking forward to whatever they come up with for him to do. All right, David, anything you'd like to say to lead us out?
Oh, we keep threatening. One of these days we're going to do another Long Walk Talks. When will that be? I don't know. It'll be thematically appropriate, I feel, to do it this month, because guess what, guys? We've been podcasting for 6 years this month. It was July of 2018 that...
What anniversary is that?
Oh, that's a good question. I believe it's cash. I think that's... you both pay me cash.
Oh, we already did, actually.
But yeah, 6 years ago, David Two Dogs Hayes and I each started our two podcasts, This Is a Work and Long Walk Talks. And now, Robert, has it been a full year since you took over as host?
I took over after WrestleMania last year, so I want to say it would have been like late April, early May, so about 14, 15 months.
Yeah. So
performance reviews are coming up.
Yeah. Speaking of releases.
Finally go.
But yeah, we'll. It's been 6 months. We'll get to a Long Walk Talks one of these days.
Well, don't push it. You're in the middle of doing a production, so it's like,
that's the problem. Is more things just keep happening.
Yeah.
So that's what we got going on.
I know a guy who's good at replacing hosts.
Yeah. Oh shit. Yeah, Robert, you want to take over Long Walk Talks as well?
I've got a couple
Your
of
stunned
corrections
silence.
to issue for your Prestige episode. We can start with that.
No, no, that one is off the table.
There's just a whole episode of him hitting back on
Item by item, things I've disagreed with you saying over those 6 years.
I'll tell you what. We'll do a whole Long Walk Talks where you and I argue about Furiosa, and then there was something else that you and I like came to blows over. I can't remember what it was that you enjoyed. That I was like, this movie was fucking terrible.
There's so many movies I enjoy.
Phrasing
that
it like
that
that reminds
way.
me of the Patton Oswalt bit of like where they were watching. I forget what it was, but it was Jerry Maguire where he's like, "This is kind of all right," and his brother's like, "This piece of shit."
We'll think of it, I'm sure, and then we'll argue about it later. But Robert, if people want to follow you online or reach out to you online, someplace that isn't Twitter, where can they do that at?
Well, instead of following me, why don't they follow Free Reign Theater Company on Facebook and Instagram and hear about all of our awesome upcoming productions?
I like that idea.
Look at that company, man.
Boom.
Yeah, that was brilliant. Chris, are you on any social media that's not Twitter?
They shouldn't follow me.
Why haven't you guys joined? No, I'm not trying to sound like a shill for fucking Mark Zuckerberg here, but what's prevented you guys from making the jump over to Threads? I wouldn't mind promoting your Threads accounts on here.
I'm lazy.
Plus I hear it's not really as active a thing. And on top of that, their stance about quietly stealing all your stuff for AI, it makes me mad.
Oh, well, there's that.
Not that I have all that good of stuff, but don't.
Pretty much the only place I'm active on social media anymore is Instagram at DBHensley. Pretty much it's either pictures of my dogs or very short reviews of whatever movie I just saw. So yeah, again, on Instagram, that's at DBHensley. Anything you guys want to say to wrap up?
Hopefully we'll be back soon. I don't know if it'll be Chris and myself or if it will be Shelby Deathray Patterson and Gina Bless Your Heart Brafford covering, because we just had NXT Heatwave and King of the Ring this weekend, but with scheduling being what it is, I'm not sure when we'll have an episode out on those. But simply for leaving this one, I will just say that the forbidden door may be closed, but there's going to be a forbidden window opening somewhere else.
Thank you, Robert. If you want to keep up with the Long Walk Productions, you can visit us online at longwalk.us to see more of our original work or hear past episodes that are no longer streaming. You can follow the YouTube links in the show notes. Thank you very much for listening, and if you enjoyed this show or any of the shows in the Long Walk Podcast Network, please make sure to leave us a rating and a review on whatever platform you are listening on.